Hey there, it's Tad Hargrave here from Marketing for Hippies, and I'm excited to record this video about point of view in marketing. Point of view in marketing is something that I discovered years ago when I was doing a workshop, and I was using the metaphor that I often use, and that I'll show you right now. So the metaphor goes something like this. Your ideal clients are on island A where they're unhappy because they've got some kind of problem, some sort of symptoms that they don't like. They want to be on island B where they've got some result that they're craving. And your business is like a boat that can take them from one island to the other. The idea of marketing is a journey from the problem to the result I got from Mark Silver. The metaphor of the boat specifically I got from Bill Barron. And I was teaching this one day, and as I taught it, what I realized was this metaphor analogy did not account for all the different ways that you might get from island A to island B, all the different routes that you might take, and what might guide you in that journey. So it made me think about it, and then I read a book by a woman named Lois Kelly called Beyond Buzz about word-of-mouth marketing, and she talked about something that I'd never heard about, and I really haven't heard much about since in marketing, called point of view, this idea of your perspective. So that's what I want to go into here, because there are three elements of your point of view. But before I do that, I want to talk about where point of view fits in the context of marketing and why it matters so much. Core to my work is this idea that marketing can feel good. Often it doesn't feel good for people. We have had experiences of being marketed to that didn't feel great, and we've often either been told to market in ways or have marketed in ways that didn't feel good for us and or the other person. And I think one of the main reasons that marketing doesn't feel good is because it's coming from this place of seduction instead of filtering. It's coming from a place of trying to get the sale, go for the close. There's a hidden agenda to get the other person to do something, namely buy our product. And my belief is it's that agenda that makes everything feel so wonky. And if we shifted marketing from being something where we're trying to convince people to do something to being more of a filtering process where we're actively trying to, yes, attract people who are a fit for us, but also actively dissuade people and push away people who are not a fit for us, then marketing stops feeling so strange and gross and uncomfortable, and it starts to actually feel really warm and wonderful and respectful. It starts to feel not like a pitch, but a real human conversation. But if we're going to talk about filtering, then we need to know what the filter is. And one of the best filters, probably the main filter in your business, is going to be your point of view. And so I've been using that word a lot, or that term a lot. So what do I mean by it? When I say point of view, I mean your philosophy, your perspective, your take on things, your cosmology, your analysis, your diagnosis, your sense of how people get from one island to the other, fundamentally. And everything that informs that, that's your point of view. When that is clear, it's very easy for people to figure out if you're going to be a fit for them or not. And if it's not clear, then the confused mind says no, and they tend to lean away anyways. One of the most important reasons overall has to do with credibility. Your niche is going to determine whether what you're doing is relevant for people or not. That's one of the main benefits of having a niche is people can immediately look at your work and say, that is relevant to me. They're helping somebody like me with the kind of problems I have, or they're offering the kind of thing that I want. The whole idea of the niche, the role that you take on in the marketplace, the clearer that role is, the clearer it is if you're going to be relevant. But let's say you go down to the harbor and there's dozens of boats and they're all going to the island that you want to go to. Now there's a different level of choice. Now there's an issue of credibility of why should I pick you over you? So one of the most important things that I've discovered with point of view is it helps you get better quality clients. Not just more clients, that'll happen too, but also better quality clients. Clients who, when they hear your take on things, say, oh my God, I see things the same way and I've never said it as well as you have. So more quality, better clients, that's reason number one. Reason number two, having a clear point of view makes you more trustworthy to your clients. If you come across a business and they make big promises to you, big claims, but they have nothing to back it up, they don't seem to have a plan around it or any particular analysis of why they've chosen that route, then you're not going to trust them. If they do, then you're probably going to trust them. So having a clear point of view makes you more trustworthy to your ideal clients. Reason number 3, having a clear point of view also makes it easier to find your ideal clients. It's easier to know where they hang out. A lot of times people, when they talk about niche, what they're really meaning is target market. When they say target market, what they really mean is demographics, which are sort of the external things. But people don't tend to hang out just by demographics. They don't tend to hang out just because they're all the same age or income bracket or gender. That's not necessarily what brings people together. Actually, what brings people together, what communities form around, are the psychographics, the internal things, the worldview, the values, the point of view. People with a shared point of view tend to gather together. You could think about that in terms of religion, people gathering by the different denominations of their churches or mosques or synagogues or whatever their tradition happens to be. Or the magazines that they read, or online places they gather. So people tend to gather by point of view. So if you have a clear point of view, it's really easy to then ask yourself, okay, people who also believe this, who see the world this way, where would they hang out? So that's reason number 3. Reason number 4, having a clear point of view is going to give your business a coherent voice. There's going to be something, a thread throughout it. And the truth is you probably already have this. You can't help it because you can't not have a point of view. Point of view is something you already do have. The challenge is when the point of view isn't clearly articulated and thought through, and when we don't even consciously understand what it is, because sometimes point of view is just an unconscious thing. It's just the way that we do what we do. One of the ways I look at point of view is, why do you do what you do the way you do it? There's a reason. And if you're thinking about changing it up, why do you want to change it? There's something underneath it, and the thing underneath it is the point of view. And the clearer that point of view becomes, the more consistent you're going to be in what you're putting out. The more consistent your messaging is going to be. The more coherent it's going to be. So people can look at all the different parts of your business, and it doesn't feel like a bunch of different businesses, which it often does with certain people, where it doesn't seem to fit together. So when you have a clear point of view, everything gets a lot more coherent. Reason number 5, having a clear point of view is it's the source of all your content. Any content that you're going to curate or create is going to come from your point of view and be filtered by it, be guided by it. So the clearer your point of view, the easier it's going to be to find and create content for yourself. Because you're going to be able to look at your point of view, which we'll get into some of the elements of it, and you're going to be able to see, I could say more about this facet of my point of view. I could create content that explains this piece of it. And it makes it very easy to come up with content. So if you feel stuck with that, clarifying your point of view is going to help a lot. Reason number 6, having a clear point of view allows you to be yourself. It allows you to actually just say what you think. So many people I know in business, so many entrepreneurs constrain themselves and kind of mute themselves and don't really call it like they see it. They don't really speak their mind. And so when you really clearly articulate your point of view, how you actually see things, why you do things the way you do, and you communicate that, it just allows you to be yourself. You get to say how you see it. And there's something really freeing about that. There's something also that helps you come across much more naturally to people. You're much more in rhythm with yourself, rather than just saying the things that you think you need to say to get a certain result or to have a certain impact, or say what your colleagues are saying. You just get to be you, and that's really attractive to people. Reason number 7, final reason. A point of view allows people to talk about you in a way that's really compelling. And it encourages them to do so, because somebody will say, oh, hey, have you heard about the massage therapist who does things this way? Have you heard about the life coach who has this kind of take on it? Have you ever heard about that naturopath who works with people who have cancer, and they have this take that cancer is really about X, Y, Z? People are very fascinated to talk about points of view. Look at TED Talks and how popular they all are. TED Talks are all about a point of view. They're all articulating some clear perspective on things. And those things get shared like crazy. They get talked about like crazy. They make people's whole careers. And yet, if I were to ask you and say, hey, would you want to go and do a TED Talk? It might be really exciting, but then there's this question of, what do I say? What's the idea, right? And TED Talks, their whole motto, ideas worth sharing. So getting a clear point of view is getting us clear on what are the main ideas of our business that could be worth sharing. Because as you clarify them and articulate them, it makes it easier for people to talk about it and talk about you and your business. Sometimes we say, oh, well, I just hope people are going to talk about me. I said, what do you hope they're going to say? and people can't say it. And if it's hard for you to say it, imagine how hard it is for your clients to say it. So when you articulate your point of view clearly, it gives people something, some words, some thoughts, some ideas that they can share to their friends about your business. All right, so we're back here on the map, and I want to use this metaphor of the boats on the island as a way to articulate the three main components of point of view. So component number one is the map. The map from island A to island B, but more even than just this map of between these two islands, a map of this basic area where you would find island A and island B. Now when I say map, there are a lot of things that could be. So here's an actual map. This is the map of Europe, and if we open it up, you get a whole sense of Europe and where things are in relationship to each other. And maps help you navigate. Maps help you figure out how to get from one place to the other. They help you figure out where you are. And that's the function of a map and point of view. So when I say map, there are some other things I mean besides just a physical map. If you go to a websites often have these website maps, where if you look at it, you can just see these everything on the website in one page. A calendar could be a map. It's a map of the year, a map through time. There are the 7 chakras. There's the Chinese meridian system. There's the foot reflexology map with all the points on the foot and what organs they relate to. That's a map. Various cultures have medicine wheels, and medicine wheels are an attempt to map out the world, their cosmology, within a circle. The 4 directions, that's a map. Joseph Campbell and his hero's journey is a map. It's an attempt to map out the patterns that a lot of stories have cross-culturally. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is also a map. It's a sense of here's some of the human needs that would show up in the average person's life or the life of a community. In business, they often do what's called a SWOT analysis, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And that's an attempt to map out the internal reality of the business's strengths and weaknesses, but also to map out the marketplace. What are the opportunities in the marketplace, but also the threats in the marketplace? So those are some examples of maps. Your map is huge. The map is an attempt to be faithful to what is in the world. So again, in a map of Europe, then you're trying to map out the physical geography, but you might also be trying to map out the internal geography, the psychic geography, the spiritual geography through and terrain through which people are moving. So the map is just saying, here's how it is. These are all the elements that are in play in making this journey from island A to island B. So that's number one, is the map. All right, so number 2 is the compass. And the compass is that thing that you use that always points north. The compass is what's going to guide you in your business. The compass gives a sense of direction. It's different than the map. The map tells you here's what's there. But if you're standing in that area, in that territory, you might not actually know what direction you're facing. So the compass is going to point you north, and it's going to let you know how to orient yourself. So in business, the compass are going to be your core principles and values, the things that guide you throughout your business. Now, they don't tell you how to. They're not a nuts and bolts approach to things, but they're saying generally when you're in this territory, if you move through this territory in this way, it's going to work for you better than if you didn't. So what are some examples of the compass? Well, there are a lot. There's the 12 principles of permaculture. Nordstrom's clothing store, they had a customer service manual that was 1 page and had 1 sentence on that page, and the sentence was use your own best judgment at all times. That was their compass. Google, their compass was don't be evil. Who knows if they are or not. Joseph Campbell, when he said follow your bliss, that's an example of a compass. That's something that could direct you. The whole mantra of be here now is an example of a compass. Strange compass doesn't point anywhere, just if you build it, they will come is an idea of a principle. This does not work in business very well. Nike's just do it is an example of a compass. Your principles, it's this mantra, it's the thing that gives your business a sense of direction. And it gives you a sense of direction in terms of how you help your clients get from island A to B. But if they came to you and they say, hey, how do I get from island A to B? You could, and you didn't have time to really give them a whole plan, you could say, well, look, here's the main idea to keep in mind as you go about it. When these things are very clear, it makes it easier to help people. It makes it easier for people to understand what you're doing. And it helps them also make their journey even if you can't help them. And finally, number 3 is the route. So we've got the map, the compass, and the route. So the map gives the terrain, the compass gives a sense of direction, but the route, that's the specific step-by-step thing that you would get from Google Maps. If you typed in, how do I get from here to here? It would give you a route, and it might show that on the map, or it might just say, go on this street, turn left here, turn right here, etc. So it's got a specific sense of progression. It's got a specific sense of, you do this first, and then this, and then this. It's kind of your protocol. It's the sense of recommendation that you would give to people. It's the specific plan or process that you recommend in your business. So what are some other examples of what a route might be? The crazy directions you get from IKEA when you go to set up some furniture, and it's just, there's no words, but it's still a map. It's saying, do this first, then this, then this, then this. You can't figure it out, and you never set up your stuff right, but it's still a map. A recipe is an example of a route. It's telling you do this first, this first, this first. So the map in that case would be the map of the kitchen. Just here's the layout of the kitchen. Here's where you can find everything, all the tools, what to cook with, the ingredients, all of that. That would be the map. The compass, in that sense, the core principles would be here, the core ideas of cooking. Here, first you mix your dry things and you mix your wet things, then you mix them together. The rules, the guidelines of cooking would be the compass, and then the route would be the recipe. The actual, here's what you do first, second, third, fourth. And if the recipe is really good, then technically anyone can make a really wonderful dish. It doesn't work for me. Normally, I would say a route should have a minimum of 3 things and a maximum of 7 things in it to keep it simple. 12-step programs are a great example of a route. You start here, you end here, here's all the steps that you do in between. Any ceremony or ritual is really a route. It's easy to look at ceremony and ritual and just see it as sort of go with the flow. And there's an element of that, but there's also, in many of them, a very specific sense of progression. There's a certain number of rocks that get brought in. The structure is made with a certain number of branches and set up in a certain way. And you do this first, and then, has a specific route to it. There's a specific set of steps that you take in a certain order, a certain progression to get from where you are to where you want to be. My program, The Niching Spiral, is an example of a 7-step process to help people figure out their niche. The work of Byron Katie, 4 steps in this turnaround that she does in her work, that's an example of a process. Nonviolent communication is both a map, it's got a compass to it, there's a series of principles it's based on, but there's also a process. First you say what you observe, then you say your feelings, your needs, and requests. So when you do this, when I notice you do this, I feel this because I'm needing this. And I was wondering if you'd be willing to do this. That's an example of a process, so sort of a loose template. And it's important to realize that, of course, our route, our suggestion, our guidance, it's a guide. It's not God. It's just going to be the loose structure. It's the general advice we'd give somebody if we weren't able to work with them one-on-one, because of course these routes never work out exactly this way. But it's our general sense of, generally I'd say you start with here, go here, 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 and then you're going to end up there. That's the thing that's going to give you the best fighting chance of getting from island A to island B. Here we are again. So we've got somebody on island A. Again, they're very sad because they got some problem, some symptoms they don't like. They want to be on island B, but there's a result that they're craving. And here you are in your boat. So when this person on island A gets down to the harbor, and there's a bunch of boats just like yours that are all going to island B, they've got to make a choice. Which boat do I get on? And the case that I'm trying to make here is that your point of view is one of the major things that's going to influence them to decide to get on your boat or somebody else's boat. And there are 3 things in that point of view. There's the map. So the map is where you can lay out, you say, look, here you are on island A, and you've been trying to get to island B and it hasn't worked. Here's why. Let me lay out the map. You've gotten shipwrecked a few times. It's because there are rocks right here. You also went in the wrong season. That's why you got hijacked by the pirates who are over here. So you can map things out, and a good map is something that when people hear it or look at it, they're just like, oh my God, that makes so much sense of my experience. You've really mapped out what it's like to be me. The compass, again, is everything that gives your guidance a sense of direction. This is your true north, the North Star that you follow. And then there's the route. The route is the specific route that you take, going from island A to island B. So you might go one person, they say, well, we take this long way around because it's really gentle. It's such a sweet trip. It takes longer, but but it's not so crazy. And somebody else like, oh man, we take this fast route and it's a little edgy, it's a little adventurous, kind of dangerous, but we shoot straight across through. And somebody else might say, we take this route over here because it's so scenic. The scenery is so beautiful. The waters are a little choppy sometimes, but it's worth it. Yeah, those are all examples of different routes that are going to be guided by a different sense of values and compass, but that are all still even based on the same map. So if you can find somebody who's got a clear map that can articulate why you have the problems that you have, why things hurt so bad. It's one thing to be in pain. It's another to not know why you're in pain. And the map gives a sense of context of here's why you are where you are. Here's why you're stuck. Here's why it's been so hard to get off this island. And here's where the other islands are. Here's how I can get you to this island. Here's some of the general ideas that can help you in your journey. So those are the three elements of point of view. Now, there's one last thing I recommend when you're thinking about point of view, which is this idea of metaphor. So many people I talk to have a really hard time articulating what they do. People ask them what they do, they explain it, and people just kind of go cross-eyed and they can't get it. So metaphor is a way that we can communicate the essence of what we do, the heart of it, in a way that really lands for people and has them be curious and want to ask more questions. And there are two fundamental ways I think you can come up with a metaphor. Number one is you can pick something that you know a lot about. So, we all know the motivational speakers who climb Mount Everest, now they travel the world, and they used mountain climbing as a metaphor for succeeding in life. One of my friends, Jennifer Sommerfeld, spent years as a doula and knows everything there is to know about the physiology of birth and what's happening in the body and emotionally. And she uses that as a metaphor for transformation when she talks with people. So she can say, well, there are these 9 stages your body goes through, and here's how that relates to your emotional growth as well. So you can pick something that you know and then translate it. And if it's something true to life, it's going to translate because it's all life. The other thing you can do is you can ask yourself, how does it feel for my client to be here on Island A, which is itself a metaphor. They're not actually on an island. We're just saying it's kind of like they're on one island and they're separated by this huge body of water and they want to get to another island. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus is another example of a point of view. It's like we're on different planets. Of course, men and women are not actually on different planets, but that metaphor seems to resonate with people. So you can ask yourself, what is it like for my ideal client? Does it feel like they're standing on the edge of a cliff? Are they feeling like they're being buried alive? Are they at the end of their rope? Do they feel like they're up against a wall between a rock and a hard place? When you can articulate your work in a metaphor that makes sense to them, that they would hear and be like, that's totally what it feels like. Yeah, it feels like I'm being buried alive by all this stuff. Then that allows you to articulate your work. Well, if they're being buried alive, what is it? What's the dirt that's going on top of them that's burying them? Who are the people shoveling the dirt in? And who are you? Are you the person that stops them, the other people from shoveling the dirt in if they're standing on the edge of the cliff? Are there branches that they could catch if they did fall? What's at the bottom of that cliff? What brought them to the edge of the cliff? What's that pathway? And what are the markers on the pathway that led them there? Et cetera, et cetera. There's so much you can explore. So this metaphor, the islands, there's a lot here. I remember in one workshop, somebody said, well, there's also, in this metaphor, there's also you, as the captain of the boat. And I was like, oh yeah, of course. And there's probably more in this that we could find. We could say, well, what's the looking glass that people could use to see far in the distance? What is the boat made out of? What's the sail made out of? What's the wind? I've also talked about the sun in this in other videos, which I won't go into. But there's a lot you can start to expand upon if you pick a metaphor. And if you pick a metaphor that works, when you explain what you do, somebody said, what do you do? And instead of going into all the technical details about the boat and the rigging and how great your boat is, you can just say, well, a lot of people I work with are in this kind of situation and it feels like this. And what I do is I help them, it feels like they're not trapped on an island, they can't get off it. And I help them get to this other island, whatever your metaphor happens to be. So that's my take on point of view. Your point of view, your perspective, your take, your philosophy is so important in business. Why do you do what you do the way you do it? Your answer to that question tells you a lot about your point of view. Once you get all that information, you're going to want to chunk it out into these 3 things: the map, the compass, and the route. And once you've done that, then you're going to want to translate it into some kind of a metaphor, some sort of analogy that makes sense to people, where all of these things have their place. I can't tell you how useful this has been for me and for a lot of the clients that I've worked with, because the challenge is the point of view is often amorphous. It's just in your head. It's all these ideas, and it gets overwhelming because it's just a jumble. It's like when your room is messy and everything's kind of just everywhere. And sometimes what you need in that situation is you got to get rid of some stuff, but you also may need some more shelving, some more storage places. And when you get those new storage places and you put things then in the right place, everything gets so tidy so fast and can stay tidy. If you can consider these sort of bins or buckets, you've got this one bin here to put things in, the map. You've got this other one, the compass, and you've got this other one here, the route. And everything you come up with as an idea around your business, it's either going to be part of your map, compass, or the route. If it's got to do with how things are in the world, that's the map. If it's got to do with ideas that can guide you in making progress through that world, through that map, it's the compass. And if it's some kind of specific set of steps in a specific order, that's the route. I hope this has been useful for you. I'm really excited about this. I've got an ebook on this, some courses coming up around point of view. So I'll be keeping you posted on that. But if you have any questions, I'd really love to hear them. If you have any examples that you would love to share with me, I'd love to hear them. But that's basically it. Point of view. Why do you do what you do the way you do it?